It's been great getting to know you, Brandon, and we've wanted to do this webinar for quite some time with you. Give us a little background on kind of your passions, your team, your business, and what kind of got you involved here with our software.
Yeah, certainly. So I got into real estate sales about 7 years ago. I joined my father. We have a team here in Maple Grove, Minnesota. And let's see, about 4 years ago, I launched my first book. I co-authored a book called Mindset, Method, and Metrics. So my passion is really about measuring your marketing. I'm really big into numbers, that kind of thing. And then this past November, I launched another book, Real Estate Marketing Playbook. So both of those are bestsellers on Amazon, so that's been good. And that's afforded me the opportunity to travel around the country and talk to agents and learn, grow that way. So it's been really exciting.
Yeah, that's great. I think that's kind of where I'm sure when you and Brian started talking, I know you and I have certainly talked, and both your books, numbers, right? So we've been able to nerd out a little bit on the numbers and the way that you've been able to set up your displays and everything. And so we're excited today to talk about your books and kind of the correlation with Sisu and just ask you a few questions. Also, audience participation, definitely encouraged. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat. Have our CEO here, Brian, who certainly will have some good questions for you. But Brian, where do you want to start? What do you kind of want to dig into first?
Brendan, maybe we could back up a little bit. So you also are a writer for Inman, and who else? Well, share some of that with us as well.
Yeah, so I write for Inman News, Realtor Magazine, and then recently I started writing for a real estate agent magazine as well. None of these pay, of course, so it's all just
so how did that happen? They all saw your book and said, hey, would you mind writing some stuff for us, or how did that happen?
Yeah, actually I was writing for them prior to writing the book, so that all happened around the same time. But I've been on stage at Inman a few times, and then was one of their influencers and an ambassador for them, and so yeah.
Okay.
Brandon, if you were to say there's like a theme of what you write about, or kind of what topics you're mostly, diving in on, I mean, obviously real estate, but what are kind of some of your niches that you would like to hit on?
Yeah, so my focus originally was around getting found online, measuring your marketing, so cost per lead, cost per sale, kind of driving those metrics. And then I've also written about just any type of marketing and a lot of tech, so drones, 3D technology. Most recently, smart home tech has been something I'm pretty passionate about, and a lot of it is just me testing the products and then documenting that and sharing my experiences. So that's been pretty cool.
So when you were on stage at Inman, what were you on stage about? What were you presenting?
So the first time I was selected to talk about technology, and with the conversation surrounded about mostly CRM. So
okay,
yeah. But since then, typically marketing panels is what I get picked up for the most. A lot of associations seem to like my numbers approach. So what I'll do is if I have the opportunity, I'll share like an Excel spreadsheet or a Sisu dashboard live and show that.
So you've actually written books about numbers. So tell us numbers. What numbers are important in real estate?
Yeah, so all of the major coaches are going to start with your contacts. So we all know that there's a certain number of contacts that will lead to a sale. And then from there, I'd say it's just a matter of tracking like how much you're spending on marketing, where you're spending your money, how many leads are you getting, how many sales. So at the end of the year, if you just look at where all of your business is coming from, you can say, okay, for next year, I'm going to spend more money in these categories, and I expect that I should be able to grow it by this amount, or I'm going to spend more time on open houses, so I should be able to do an extra sale here. So just being able to quantify what it takes to achieve a sale is absolutely game changing. And surprisingly, not a lot of agents are doing it.
Okay, so knowing how much you're spending on a sell is critical. What about frequency of that? I know you just mentioned doing that once a year, which I think is a great start for somebody that doesn't do it once a year. But I know I see a lot of teams now on Sisu doing it. I mean, they're looking at that on a monthly basis. How do you feel about the importance of that?
Yeah, so I think it's important to update your profit and loss statement every month so you know where your money is going and what's working for you, just to be kind of mindful of that. But I try to warn agents not to make like big strategic changes very frequently. So maybe once a quarter, we're kind of reviewing it and then looking at what we need to change for next quarter, but annually making the large adjustments. So what ends up happening is like an agent will try something for like 3 months and then they're not getting the results they're looking for and they drop it and then they're off to something else. Whereas if they would have stuck with it for another couple of months, they would have saw the fruit of their labor there. That's especially true with things like direct mail because it just takes such a long time to ramp up.
So going along those lines, I've been talking with a lot of people, and there's kind of this strategy that I'm seeing a lot of people put in place where they'll evaluate their lead sources monthly, but like you said, Brandon, not making a drastic change all of a sudden, like, hey, this direct mail campaign didn't work, we're never doing it again. And what they'll do is they'll look at they'll come into Sisu, and Sisu there's a report, it's your lead source ROI report. And they'll say, okay, we got 12 lead sources or 10 lead sources or 5 lead sources that we're putting money towards. Every month, we're going to pick on the bottom lead source. We're going to pick on the bottom 2 lead sources. We're going to take 10%, 20%, 25%, whatever. It's almost robotic, right? We're going to take the worst lead source. Every month, we're going to take 20% out. We're going to pump it into either something that's working, or if there's a new lead source that we want to try, we're going to pump it in there. And that's how we're going to be constantly evolving and almost churning our lead sources, right? You're constantly picking on the worst one and trying to find the next big thing or pumping it into something that works. So that's a really cool strategy that I've been seeing going around a lot, just talking with people.
So taking that to the next level, and Brandon, I don't know how you feel about this, but I've seen teams as well where different agents think that different, or maybe it's partially them mentally, right? It's partially also just what they're good at converting. But some agents are really good at converting certain types of leads, but not so good at converting others. Whereas some may say, hey, Zillow leads, let's just take Zillow leads as an example. Zillow leads, some agents may say, are horrible, right? And so those agents never convert those leads. So you also have others that say, I want every Zillow lead possible because I can close 5 of those a month. And so, but I guess my point of this is some team leaders I've seen actually give leads, different types of leads to different agents, knowing their conversion ratios for that lead type. Is that, how do you feel?
Yeah, we definitely do that as well. I like that within Sisu, I can drill down and look at each individual agent and lead source at the same time and kind of attribute a percentage there. And then also factoring like the ROI on that individual. So you may have a situation where the team member is just not profitable and we need to make some adjustments. Otherwise, it's unsustainable. And you could have that. You're just kind of leaking money and not realizing it. So being able to dial in to that level of specifics has been great for us to just make some adjustments. And then also for coaching, because the numbers don't lie. We can show people that, that here's where everyone else is and here's where you are right now. And that's the reason we need to make these changes.
So let's go through that a little bit more. I'm glad you brought up coaching. Tell me about, you sit down, I'm guessing coaching means a one-on-one with one of your agents. Is that right?
Yeah, so we do weekly meetings as well, where we'll go over where we're at on a high level on our dashboard. And then we also have this fabulous screen here that just constantly is going over our metrics. So this is as a team. But yes, individually, the conversation really just does a deep dive into their numbers and kind of even comparing to the previous year and see what the differences are, where their business is coming from, where they might be struggling. So it's a great tool.
So will you actually have conversations with them in those one-on-ones about this is the type of lead source, this is where you should be focusing your time, or I'm not going to give you any more leads from this lead source because you're wasting my money? I mean, do you have those conversations?
Yeah, those are tough conversations to have, but Sisu has been a great tool for us for that because I can show them and explain the rationale. So it's not like I'm playing favorites or doing anything like that. It's just, pure business. They can see that we're not making money on something, and it's a team effort. So we reinvest all of the money that we make as a team into marketing. So we really run almost as a nonprofit, I would say. But this has been huge for us to be able to say, okay, this isn't working, but this is, so let's put more money there, or let's focus more time around these activities.
A lot of people we're working with, sorry, Brian, a lot of people we're working with, they get so much data pulling into their system. They're pulling it from different sources from their CRM that they can start to see things like, hey, you went on 7 listing appointments this month. You converted 4 of them. What lead sources were those appointments with, and which ones did you convert? And I start to look at that data over a longer period of time, right? Over a year. And now I'm starting to get almost a batting average of, what's your batting average on this lead source versus that lead source? Those are things that in a spreadsheet, I mean, that's a headache to track, right? But when you start to aggregate all this data, you're pulling in it from CRM and from other sources and kind of compiling it all. And we even have some things development wise talking about, going to the next level and giving that like lead source batting average almost. It starts to get really interesting talking about those kind of coaching opportunities.
So Brandon, I know numbers don't lie. So we've talked about ROI and really focusing on where are you spending your money for leads, which I think is incredible, right? Why spend money for a year or 2 years or 3 years in some place where you might be converting 2 leads a year, right? So
exactly.
So that's key. So going over to some of these other things, you talked about tracking contacts, really we do contacts, conversations, appointments set, appointments met, right?
Yep.
Signed agreements, under contract closed. Let's talk about that and how that helps you in coaching your agents. Talk us through how you utilize those numbers.
Yeah, so everyone on the team has the app on their phone, and at 5 o'clock it pings them and just tells them to put in the number of conversations they had. And then we also encourage them to input their appointments. But I do know that not everyone is going to do that. So when I get a file, I make sure to go back in and put in the dates for them so I can look and see, okay, they went on the listing appointment on this day, or the lead came in on this day. Here's when they went under contract. Here's when it's pending. And here's when we think it's going to close. And so we can really look at our cash conversion cycle with that and really dial into a lot of different metrics. And at first I didn't think that the team was going to use it, to be honest. I thought, wow, that's asking a lot of them to input this information every day. But when we have a leaderboard like this, and every week at the meetings, you can see that other people are doing it. It really helps them do it, or encourages them to do it as well. And then I think once an agent gets in and starts utilizing it, they really find it valuable for themselves. I know for me, like I can see that correlation from contacts to appointments to sales. So I know that if I'm slacking on conversations, that I need to get my butt in gear and get those done for the week.
So how long did it take for your agents to really adopt that and pick that up and more so embrace it?
I would say within a week, they fully embraced it. Yeah. It helps that I incentivized, we did some contests with the challenge feature right away. So that was fun because there's a little friendly camaraderie across the group. So they got everyone used to using it.
Okay, great. So let's talk about contests. It's a great segue. So what kind of contests have you run? What's been the value there? Why would you recommend contests? Just share some of your experiences there with us.
Yeah, so I really want to focus on the things that happen in the beginning, because those are things that the agents can control, and then they all feel like they have a fair shot, because my father and I have a little bit of a leg up in that we do a lot more business. So if we base any competition off of sales, it would be like no contest, because we've got some newer agents on our team. So by focusing on things like number of contacts made, open houses, and just tracking your activity, we've gotten a lot more engagement that way. And we've done just like gift card giveaways, so quarterly contests. And then each week in the meeting, we can say, oh, look, so-and-so is winning. And, oh, wow, you could overtake him with just 2 open houses this week. And then when that same person said, oh, yeah, I did an open house and I got a sale, well, that encourages everyone else to want to do more open houses as well.
So open houses are part of your contest currently, is that right?
That was quarter 1 or quarter 2. Right
Okay.
now, I'm only running one, which is get 5-star reviews, which is a big focus. So.
Okay, so let's talk about 5-star reviews. I was with another team owner this week who told me they're running a 5-star review contest today, and they have 3 categories going in this contest, and 5-star reviews is one of those. So all of the new agents have gone out and they've gotten like everyone they know to fill out these 5-star reviews. They've gotten like 100 5-star reviews this week on Google. Have you had a similar response to that? Tell me what's going on with that.
Yeah, so we rank really well here in Maple Grove. A lot of it has to do with reviews, but we're pretty close to overtaking page 1 on Zillow. There's some pretty big teams and one person in particular that just has a ton of reviews. So we have annual goals around getting more reviews, and we've implemented a product called Bird Eye as well to help with that. But yeah, I think, acknowledging the fact that people are getting reviews and talking about how we're asking for those reviews in our meetings has been helpful for everyone. And it works for it's a collaboration. We all work together for that because a review on Zillow or Google is going to help every single one of us. So it's in everyone's best interest to get more reviews.
Oh yeah, I think we all know that clients today, that's probably the biggest thing they do to do the research, right? Is go see what kind of reviews you guys have. So
yeah, definitely. And a lot of the people we meet with that found us online say, "Oh wow, you have really great reviews across all these platforms." So that's a big focus for us.
Okay, great. I wanted to ask you. You were talking about reporting a few minutes ago. Do you use the income report at all?
Yeah, so I actually started with Excel, and when I saw you guys added that feature, I think I had put it in like a feature request, and within 2 days you guys added it. So I'm sure it was already in the pipeline or something. But
No, it was a 2-day delivery.
Yeah, it's one of my favorite features.
Just so you know, Brandon, as of now, you can actually add expenses into that as well. So it'll show your company dollar, and then it'll actually show your net income. But I wanted to know, talk us through how you use that report. Do you use that for forecasting, or what do you use that for?
Yeah, so a lot of it is for forecasting, and then also for just making sure that we're holding our dollars accountable. So at the end of each month, I go in and add in, I count up how many leads we got from our sources to make sure that that's accurate, put in the dollars that we've spent, and then it just comes out with the report. What I like is that you can kind of change the time parameters. So you can look at a month, you can look at a year, because what a lot of agents don't realize is that a lot of these lead sources have a very long cash conversion cycle. So dollars I spent 8 months ago are now turning into sales. So if you're just looking at 1 month, that's not a very accurate reflection. So really
That's
work like over time.
That's if your agents actually continue to follow up, right?
Correct. Yeah.
So what CRM are you using?
So currently we're using Contactually, but we'll see what happens here at the end of the quarter, just because we have an enterprise account. So
okay,
it may be going away.
it may disappear on you. So
we'll see.
Have you guys been using
beyond my pay grade? So I've got my eye on a couple, but we'll see. I'm not ready to jump yet.
So you're gonna ride it to the end.
I love Contactually, so I'm hoping I can keep it.
Okay, have you guys done any sort of integration there with Sisu?
So we looked at how we would be able to do it, and in the end, we decided that we didn't want to actually. So I kind of reserved Sisu for when they're at the point of appointment and further. Otherwise, I feel like the system would just get bogged down with all the number of leads, and we have so many contacts in our database. It's overwhelming, to be honest.
Yeah. So as soon as somebody sets an appointment, that's when you want that data to come into Sisu.
Yep.
And you figure it's only a few fields that would pull in from your CRM, so you're fine to just have them enter into Sisu.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and so each agent does things a little bit differently, so there really wouldn't have been a one-size-fits-all solution that would have worked anyways. So some people are using their Gmail or their G Suite calendar. I use Outlook to track things. I use Calendly. So like I, in theory, could make an integration that would pull the person's name and all that stuff. But honestly, for the amount of work we'd put into getting that set up, I could just go in and input it myself, and it's not that big of a deal. So I wish I could say I'm going on 100 appointments a week, but in reality, it's like 2.
Right, right.
So, Brandon, question for you, kind of switching gears here a little bit. I know a lot of the people in the audience have probably read your book. Really the one that we got interested in a lot was the mindset methods metrics, right? Am I getting the order there right?
Yeah, sure.
Or is it method mindset? What is the order?
So the irony is that it's on the cover it says mindset method and metrics, but in the reality the book goes mindset metrics methods, just because of the way it got edited. So
It's
either way you're
interchangeable.
good.
It's
Yeah.
The order doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Talk to me about the inspiration behind the book, what went into it, and particularly I'm interested because a big part of all this is mindset. So I would be interested to know, for anyone who hasn't read the book yet, what are kind of some of the core, or I guess like the brief summary of it?
Yeah, so we came together, it's 3 different perspectives. Marshall Saunders, which is a previous co-owner of Remax Results, a brokerage that I work for, he mainly contributed the mindset portion. And then most of my contribution was around metrics. And then Nick Dreyer, who at the time was with the title company and now is with a competing brokerage, but a good friend of mine, he also helped with some of the methods as well. So kind of what would it take to get started with door knocking, or what would it take to, be the best at doing open houses, that type of stuff. So we really try to break down, talk about the overall theme of like running your business like a business, so time blocking, having a profit and loss statement, measuring things. And then we break it down into like each type of marketing. We talk about best practices. And so the idea behind the book came from Nick and I were out at Inman. It was my first time out in San Francisco, and I happened to have been nominated for an Innovator Award that year. And we were a little bit frustrated with the people they were putting on stage, because a lot of those people were luxury brokers on the coast, and they talked about things that we didn't think were really applicable to our market. We're here in the Midwest, so average sales price is about $250,000. And what I really wanted to know is like, okay, if I do direct mail, how many postcards do I need to sell one house? If I do an open house, how many open houses do I need to do before I statistically should pick up a buyer? If I spend money on internet leads, like how many leads does it take to make a sale? And a lot of that we weren't finding in the books that were currently available, and we weren't finding it from the speakers on stage. So we set out to do the research to find the answers to those questions, and we documented everything that we did and wrote the book about it.
So you do have some of those numbers based on research that you did, like how many open houses for a lead kind of stuff, or is it more like how you would gauge that?
Yeah.
Share some of those interesting stats. I mean, everyone listening right now, myself included, is like, okay, so what's the best, right? Tell us how you can easily go bring somebody in who you're going to be able to, sell a house.
Yeah, so what we found out that there is really no average, because everyone is different. So every market is different, every individual strengths are different, but by and large, I would say, internet leads that are pay-per-click in variety, convert 1% to 2%. If they're portal leads like Zillow, it tends to convert higher. We were seeing 5% to 10%. And now with the concierge handoff, that goes up a little bit higher, but of course you get less leads. I like to tell my agents that if you do 10 open houses, you should get a sale just by chance, honestly. Obviously, there are agents out there that are like really personable and they're really good at capturing information, and they're doing the right open houses in the right way, and their numbers are going to be much higher. But the point I would say is that if you are measuring it for yourself, then you're going to be able to base your decisions off of your own record. So kind of look backwards at the previous year and say, okay, well, here's exactly what I did. Here's where I spent my money, and here's the results I got. What can I do to tweak that? Or if I want to make 100,000, I made 50,000 this year. If I double these efforts, will I get there? That type of stuff. So really, it's more by the person.
So you went out and talked to a bunch of different brokerages and agents. And you
Yep.
were trying, it sounds like you were trying to find those golden numbers, right? Like this is the number for open houses, but
Yeah, results may vary.
I mean, those are hard numbers to find. They don't even really exist because like you're saying, everyone's so different, right? And so
Yeah,
really the only number that's relevant is the one that you track for yourself. And if you don't know that number, then, you know, what help do you have, right? I mean, even we have some baselines that we've established based on talking with people.
yeah,
But I mean, it varies even within the same agent. If an agent's calling expireds or FSBOs, their conversion ratio could be different, right?
absolutely. So I would say the person that probably has the best answer to that question is Larry with Ninja, that has Ninja Selling. In their book, they lay it out. I forget what page number it is, but I read his book afterwards. I was like, wow, this is really good. So I think he did a lot more research than we did, just because he's got all those coaching clients and stuff. It's a much larger scale than we were by. But I was really fascinated by how close his numbers came to the numbers I came up with. So it's really interesting.
So it seems to me that the real secret here is if somebody, it's different for everybody, right? So if somebody's converting on open houses, they should continue to focus on open houses. If someone's
Exactly.
converting on internet leads, they should continue focusing on internet leads, right? So
Yep.
find your, does it make sense to say find your sweet spot?
Yep.
And focus on that and double down on that, and that's how you grow your business?
Yeah. And for new agents, if you can't master your sphere of influence, don't even bother with anything else. That you have to be able to do that first. If you can't get 10% of your database to either buy, sell, or give you a referral every year, that's a problem. So grow your database first, but then add, additional lead sources. And yeah, you can kind of start with some industry standard benchmarks and then find what works for you. And if you like it, keep doing it. Figure out how many of that activity you need to do to hit your goals, and then use an app to track, to hold yourself accountable, and you'll be able to do it.
So Brandon, backing up a little bit on that, you said SOI. So let's talk about how to build an SOI. I know my wife requires that her new agents they put 200 people into their SOI database so that she can then start marketing her 33 or 36 or however many touches it is, right? So what do you recommend there? How many leads does somebody actually need to put in their SOI to really start building that? And how do you best do that if I'm talking to new agents out there?
Yeah, so we have a couple of agents on our team that are brand new out of college, and that was a little bit more challenging just because of their age, and honestly, this generation, they don't keep addresses. So one of our agents could only come up with 10 addresses. So that's kind of challenging. But I encourage people to get to around 200. I do believe that Dunbar's number is a real thing, and that's something that is a real limitation that we have. And you could have 5,000 friends on Facebook, but it doesn't really mean anything. And you could have a mailing list of 2,000 and it wouldn't mean anything. So really focusing in on about 200 people that you have a real relationship with, past clients, friends, family, volunteer work, that type of stuff. And then we're mailing to them every month a physical newsletter. Even if they just throw it in the garbage, it's a reminder. We got them on an email newsletter that's custom to our area, so it's it's less canned. Hopefully they find it interesting and they see that we're doing business and providing that evidence of success. And then we encourage quarterly phone calls, or it could be a Facebook message or a text message. But tracking that in Sisu, I consider that a conversation, so you're not dripping on people. And then we do 3 client events a year. Now we're starting to call them community events, because it encourages people, our clients and our past clients, to invite friends of theirs as well. So it helps us get introduced to more new people, and helps us stay out of trouble with commerce, because they're community events. They're open to the public. But yeah, that's kind of how we approach our sphere of influence.
Very cool. Brian, did you want to touch on something else there? Or?
No.
Okay.
I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to cover, Brandon, on on your book. You've written 2 books, I guess.
Yep, I've written 2 books. The first one I co-authored, then we came out with a workbook that's pretty helpful for business planning. Then I've got the playbook, and then in about a month or 2 here, my next book will be out. It's called Success Rate Marketing, and I did even deeper dive into the numbers behind marketing, and that's actually for all small businesses. So it'll be great to give out to referral partners as well. But expect to see that on Amazon around end of October, mid-November at the latest. So.
All right,
Exciting.
congratulations. So this book thing's just taking off for you, and people obviously like to read what you write. So that's exciting. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's definitely a passion project. You're not going to get rich writing books. It's a lot of work, but I enjoy the research, and I'm learning a lot along the way. So I enjoy doing it.
So the mindset, the numbers, if you were to give some key advice to people, and I would say it's probably mostly team owners that we have watching this, what would be the key advice you would give to them?
So what gets measured gets improved, and it's really important to hold your marketing dollars accountable. I know a lot of people that just take a certain percent and they put it towards marketing, and then they have no idea where it's coming. With a product like Sisu, we can see in real time, and we can make really intelligent decisions based on what's actually going on in our business, and we can adjust on the fly, and then we can kind of identify problems before it's too late. So like with Zillow, we're seeing our return on investment is diminished substantially, and a lot of it is due to the change in the program itself. And so we're being very transparent with our rep about that and saying, this isn't working for us, and here's why. Here's what needs to change in order for us to continue along this program. Otherwise, we're going to need to take those dollars and invest them elsewhere, because I'm not in the business of losing money.
So do you actually show them your reports that are within Sisu?
Oh, yeah.
If you're having those conversations?
Yes. So I'm radically transparent. Anytime I'm on stage, I will pull up our actual profit and loss statement. Anytime I'm talking to a team member, I will open up the books and say, this is what we're spending. This is what we brought in from these sales. Here's kind of where we need to be. If we get that, I'm going to dump more money into it, add more fuel to the fire. But if we're not getting it, I have to adjust and put that money elsewhere. So I think people really appreciate that transparency and honesty, and just being upfront with them. So.
Do you do the same thing with your vendors as you're talking about co-marketing dollars? How do you manage that?
Yep. So when things are going well, I'm careful not to tell them that, hey, this lead source is killing it, because that's exactly what happened. They're going to raise the cost on you. But when things aren't working, it's a good time to point out that it isn't working, and work together to see how we can do things better. Because with Zillow, it could just be how we're handling the calls, and so it's a relationship, and we need to work together, not just say, hey, this doesn't work. If I go on Facebook right now and I pick any lead source, anyone, I can find 100 people that'll say that's the worst thing, what a waste of money. But I can pick that same lead source, and there's probably someone out there that's just making a killing on it. So it's all like how you use it. So I wouldn't say that one lead source is bad or anything, but it's important to be very analytical of how you use it and make sure it's working for you.
Yeah, it may not be that it's bad, but it's just bad for you because you're having a hard time converting that, right? Somebody else may do great with that same lead source.
Yep.
So I think the important thing is to know what you're doing, what your production is based on those lead sources. So
exactly.
Thanks, Brandon. I think that's great advice. Zach, anything else you wanted to wrap up with?
Yeah, so wrapping up, Brandon has a coupon code with us. It's just your last name in all caps. We'll drop that in the chat. So it's Doyle, all caps. Something cool that we're going to do, Brandon, along with this, anyone who signs up, the important thing is that you track these numbers, right? Sisu tries to make tracking these numbers infinitely easier, especially if you can integrate your CRM. I mean, getting these numbers is just going to be a piece of cake. If you're interested, do a trial. Use Brandon's coupon code, which is Doyle, and we'll throw in a copy. We'll cover that of one of your books, Brandon. You choose which book it is. We're thinking metrics, mindsets, methods, metrics, methods. That one. We're also thinking one of your other ones. So whatever you're thinking, we want to throw in a free copy of the book included in anyone who starts a trial. So that they can, give it a read and really dive deeper into some of the studies and the research that you've done. So that would be very cool. We do a very risk-free, if you are interested, maybe you're tracking in spreadsheets right now and you want to try something new out. I mean, it's very risk-free to try Sisu. You get a 7-day trial, everything's month to month, and our team will help you get up and running and even importing your past spreadsheets. So Brandon, thanks for joining us, man. It's been awesome. It's good talking with you. You've done a lot of research around this stuff. So really good to hear from you. Anything to words of inspiration as we depart?
No, well, just thanks for having me, and thanks for building a great product. I love that you guys do the mastermind calls and that you listen to the feedback from team owners, and the product has evolved substantially since when I started in January. So it's been really cool to see all these new features implemented and I test them out and hear how other team leaders are using it. So it's been great.
It's that 2-day delivery time on new feature requests, right?
Right. I want to put one in right now.
If only we could always do that, Brandon. But
I want to see cumulative sales on my dashboard, the snapshot.
I've heard that one. We'll add that in. All right.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
okay, thank you, Brandon. Great seeing you again.
Yeah, you too. Thanks.